I mean, they can only hold this down so long. And I'm not going to pretend it's going to happen by Thursday 2 weeks from now. It's stupid to make that type of prediction, but something's going to break here, Donegan, and it's just a matter of time.
I read on Wall Street Bets, I read for the past 2-3 months that everyone thinks that there's going to be a recession at the end of the year.
This is Donegan Kaiser, founder of Liberty and Finance. I'm now a licensed gold and silver broker for Miles Franklin. Call me directly for the physical gold and silver that you need at the best price with personalized private service from one of the oldest and best companies in the business. For fastest service, just call 1-888-81-LIBERTY. That's 888-81-LIBERTY. And either I or one of my sons and fellow brokers will call you back as soon as we can and understand your needs. Welcome back to Liberty and Finance. We have returning guests, Jim Lewis and Ivan Bayuki, the founders of Wall Street Silver. They're here with us again this Friday, June 25th, 2021. Jim and Ivan, thank you for coming back on Liberty and Finance.
Thank you, Donegan.
Thank you, Donegan.
You guys have been popular heroes for many people over the past, this whole year. I guess starting in January, people found out about you because of Silver Squeeze 1.0 that happened basically at the end of January, beginning of February. That day was a meltdown day for pretty much a lot of people in the metals industry because the markets basically blew up overnight. It was that whole Sunday, the market, a lot of online dealers couldn't even open their trading because they were already oversold for the weekend. They were completely naked exposed to spot price changes on the COMEX, and they had to wait for things to stabilize to be able to hedge again on Monday before they knew that they were protected to start being able to sell again. So it was a very eventful time. Then we had Silver Squeeze 2.0, and you guys had a national billboard campaign. We'd love to have you bring us up to date on those things. In fact, there's a question that was specifically asked by one of our viewers, Ivan Gaeta, who says, are there any plans for a third silver raid? So could you start us off from that whole perspective of Wall Street Silver, the fact that you guys have been driving this communication of grassroots retail scale individual investors who are very interested, how your mission is progressing, how your numbers are growing, and what's going on?
I would say there was no Silver Squeeze 2.0 or 3.0 or Raid 2 or Raid 3. It's sort of a continuous, never-ending effort, if you know what I mean. And when you look at some of these graphs of what is happening on COMEX or with PSLV or some of these other things, what you'll notice is it's just a steady increase of pressure. There's no gaps in it. I would assign the credit for what happened at the end of January and early February. Wall Street Silver didn't really exist then. It was just getting started on Reddit. I would assign that more to Wall Street Bets because there was a lot of activity going on there related to silver. And then they kicked us all off of Wall Street Bets. And then that's what led to Wall Street Silver, all the hedge funds didn't really want, or all the people who were engaged in that GameStop effort didn't want to be distracted by silver. So the moderators there made a decision, no silver, GameStop only. And that's what led to Ivan to create Wall Street Silver and has led to everything since then. And the billboard campaign that Ivan launched, that was successful, I believe. Those billboards were up for the month of May. I believe they're all down by now. But yeah, it was a good effort. It created a lot of energy in the community, a lot of new membership. We gained tens of thousands of new members in May and June. I think when Ivan started that campaign, we were at around 30,000 members on Reddit.
Yeah.
Now it's gone up to 120,000 members now are on Reddit. So we've created a new generation of stackers, which is creating this constant retail pressure, I guess. Everyone's stacking. Everyone believes that this is important. And you can see it at the retail level because retail's having to adjust a great deal to this.
There was a major conference that actually came out from Rick Rule Media, and it was called Robinhood, Reddit, and the Rise of the Retail Investor. And you guys were featured in that discussion about this phenomenon of, instead of people getting their investment directions on high from investment broker, financial planners, that kind of thing, and the investment banks, it's this grassroots, much more real-time communication at the individual level and at the sort of the crowdsourced level among individual investors. And he said that's a force to be reckoned with going forward. You guys have actually discovered a new fundamental as far as finding stocks, or in this case, assets, for which there is a distortion in the market, where there's a small amount of available supply and there's a high demand, and that the pricing just doesn't make sense. So it should be a good opportunity for investors. Along the way, we talked with him about how Sprott Asset Management has amassed like 50 million ounces of silver because of increase in demand for their physical silver fund, PSLV. And you guys have been tracking the very striking progress of increased investment in PSLV and the simultaneous decrease in inventories of silver available on the COMEX. We can put a chart up that helps illustrate this, but one of the questions from our viewers about that was, has Sprott's acquisition of those 50 million ounces of silver and ongoing really deprived the inflows, which otherwise would have been available to the COMEX? And Rick's answer to that was yes, the way that they acquire that is from eligible metals that could be available to replenish COMEX, but because they've been so driven to acquire those in response to the unprecedented demand from people wanting to actually buy into the PSLV fund and really have real silver behind it, that those ounces, those 50 million ounces, have not been available to replenish COMEX. So it's pretty fascinating. But why don't you let us know what you guys are watching? We'll put the chart up and you can talk us through it, things that you think are noteworthy that our viewers need to be aware of about this big trend.
Yeah, so the chart that you're looking at is provided by one of our Reddit members. His name is Ditch the Deep State. And he's been tracking this data for well over a year, ever since around the time that the COVID virus started in early 2020. And you have to do it manually because the COMEX does not provide this data for free. They charge for historical data, but the data each week is posted publicly. So as long as you are logging in like every 5 days or so and getting the weekly data, you can transfer it to your own private, spreadsheet, which is what luckily one of our members has been doing for well over a year now. And he's sort of teased out in this data that PSLV has just launched right around the time that the silver squeeze started. You can see that their acquisition of the 1,000 ounce silver bars just went vertical. Or not vertical, but it starts to look like a hockey stick. And at the same time, in early February, you start seeing the registered for delivery inventory at COMEX take almost a proportional decline. That's not one for one, but it's fairly close. And what Rick Rule was able to share with us is that while PSLV does not buy directly, they don't play in futures, they don't play on the COMEX market. What PSLV and Sprott does is they acquire their 1,000 ounce silver bars from the bullion banks, from all the wholesalers out there who are offering those same bars. They go out and they buy them. And what they discovered in early May of this year is that they had cleaned out most of North America, or as Rick Rule put it, everywhere that was within trucking distance of Ottawa. And he then made a misstatement on your show, which he corrected later on our show. He clarified on our show that they had opened a sub-custodian with Brinks in London so that they could acquire more 1,000 ounce silver bars there, but not in Zurich or Singapore or Asia or anywhere else. It's London only at the moment. Until I guess until they clean out London, we'll see. But the 1,000 ounce bars are only stored temporarily in London until they have enough, or it's an efficient amount that they can arrange transport to ship all those 1,000 ounce bars to Canada. And he said that that's not really what they want to do. They don't want to pay to fly 1,000-ounce bars because it's not efficient, it's expensive. But they've been forced to do it because of supply shortages in North America. It's just no longer easy. Sprott is buying so many, it's just no longer easy to acquire 1,000-ounce bars in North America. And that's because Sprott has a $3 billion shelf offering that they're currently working their way through. And that doesn't mean they buy $3 billion instantly. It means they have authorization to go out and acquire $3 billion worth of silver over time. And that equates to, when they started, it equaled something like 110 to 120 million ounces of silver. And they're only about halfway through it. So they've got at least another 60 million ounces of firepower for the rest of this year and next year. And who knows, maybe I suspect what will happen is when they get near the end of that $3 billion shelf offering, we're going to see Sprott come out and just issue another $3 billion shelf offering right after.
Yeah, there was another quote around that said, "You ain't seen nothing yet." And it really is driven by retail demand. So that's where it really comes back to.
Yeah, they can't buy those $3 billion in ounces unless there's retail demand for PSLV shares.
I have a question for you guys. A lot of people have been asking me, and that is that officialdom doesn't always smile on small players making waves in the pond. The waves are supposed to be left for the big players to make, while regulators turn a blind eye or whatever. So there was actually some talk that was happening in a Congress and so on after January 31st, saying, "Hey, this is a problem if retail investors are going to collude with each other and make coordinated attacks on markets, that this is a destabilizing effect on the markets and manipulating the markets, and we think we need to put an end to this and put a kibosh on it." So flat out to you guys, have you been told to cease and desist in any way from the communication you're encouraging people to do with each other about what they want to do at the retail level?
No, we've got no cease and desist. I'd love for them to send us one, though, like what Jim was saying in other interviews.
It would be very interesting if they did send us a cease and desist, because I suspect there would be such an uprising on Twitter and Reddit that we'd have no problem raising a legal defense fund to deal with it. And I mean, we're not going to stop. It's just how can you call it colluding? We're just, a couple of 10,000 people who talk online. I mean, it's no different than someone going on CNBC and talking their book, right? Mm-hmm. If an investment banker or a hedge fund, or who was that guy who went on back during COVID? He goes on CNBC and he starts crying about everything's coming to an end.
Oh,
and
yeah.
It came out later that he was just talking his book, and at that moment he just totally flipped his position and went long or something and covered all his shorts. And so they're doing that stuff on CNBC all the time. So I don't see how anyone could have an issue with a bunch of people on a public forum on Reddit just talking about silver. I mean, it's a commodity.
Okay, so one of the reasons you guys, I think, have enjoyed such growing popularity and things have grown so fast is that you really appeal to a lot of different demographics. Our channel, Liberty and Finance, and its predecessor, Reluctant Preppers, has always had a bias towards like older age groups, people that are really concerned about financial economic risk. They want about the Constitution, that sort of thing. But you guys are finding a way to really engage a younger crowd as well. So like all ages are getting involved. And as part of that, you're keeping it non-political. You're just saying, look, this is, and even your tagline right on your homepage of your website, it just is, we just like silver, period. So talk to us a little bit about how is this universal? How is this like unifying, not just for, I guess, Americans, but for all people?
Wall Street Silver it's more than just talking about investments. The reason why we get every different age and demographics, because it's literally like a family. It's a movement. You have memes, you have jokes, you have discussions about miners, silver, due diligence. So it's a little bit of everything. It's not just focusing on financing and everything like that. But it's really nice because you have people, younger groups coming from all different subreddits and all across the world and globe. And it's younger groups too, and they're putting their own marketing ideas. They're being super creative and putting out posters. They're doing their own type of billboards and all type of advertising. So it's really cool to see.
And I think a lot of it is that Reddit is very mobile friendly. It works very well on your phone, which is very important for younger demographics. And that's made it very appealing to a lot of the younger folks. And we've done some polling on our Reddit community, and I think something like 50% of the audience is 40 or younger. And yeah, there's a lot of older guys there also stacking. I've just in some insane level of stacking. I've seen some people post their pictures of where they have 3 or 4 metric tons of silver, and they're doing an inventory of their home stack or their private vaulted stack, and they came up with a nickname for it. They call it the Eric Sprott home starter kit. And anyways, I shared that with one of Eric's people who contacted us, and they thought it was hilarious. But yeah, it's a very engaging community. It's a lot of fun, a lot of entertainment, and I think that was sort of missing from sort of the precious metals environment for investors, is a place to have fun with it. And someone else, I forget who it was, maybe Ivan can remember, someone said that stacking silver, collecting silver bars and coins or whatever, it's a very lonely hobby, right? Not a lot of people even share it with their own family members because they, a spouse or your brothers or something, they make fun of you for investing that way or thinking these things are important. And the Reddit community creates an environment where people can just hang out and talk with all their friends about their favorite hobby together, and not get any sort of ridicule from their real life friends or family as, oh, there goes Dad with his silver again. Why does he buy that stuff? Or a pressure from your wife as to, why did you spend another $5,000 on it's really seriously. You don't get that on Reddit. All you get is support and love and cheering you on for your collection, so you can share your hobby without criticism that you might feel in real life. And I think that's one of the reasons why Reddit is so successful.
I'll add on to what you're saying. First of all, I have to corroborate one of the things, and we knew we had reached a tipping point in our household when my wife stopped asking me month after month, year after year, why do you keep spending so much of our money on this stuff? Why do you keep spending so much of our money? And I kept saying, honey, we're not spending anything. We're just saving. We're just saving. And it's like, no. I see the money's leaving our checking account and it's not coming back. You're spending. And then we were going to put in a bid for a home, which we did put in, and we ended up not getting the home because somebody overbid us. But the point is, I was saying to her, we could sweeten our bid if we were to cash in some of our metal, so we could put in a bigger down payment here. And she said, you're not touching our ounces. That's our retirement. And I thought, okay, we've reached a tipping point.
The light clicked on there.
Yeah.
Right.
So anyway, it was just, but this is not about an individual person. This is about multiple generations, not just in our country but worldwide. We have been I will say dumbed down. We've been taught to trust numbers on a bank statement rather than something that's real, that is intrinsically has intrinsic worth, that we can hold in our hand, that we capture the fruits of our labor. We interviewed Wayne Jett several times. He's the author of The Fruits of Graft, Great Depressions Then and Now, and he shows all these parallels and these tie-ins. He takes us step by step through the development of and the lengthening and worsening of the Great Depression of 1929 through 1945, depending how you count, versus now. And he points out that the big goal of central bankers is to, instead of letting a worker take the fruits of his labor and putting it into his own pocket, you have to take the fruits of your labor, write it on a piece of paper, and that the banker gets to be in control of, and they get to determine what the value of that's going to be in the future, or whether you're even allowed to use it in the future, and that sort of thing. So anyway, we've forgotten this. For generations, we've forgotten this. So actually, those of us who are feeling like, black sheep or whatever in our family, we don't want to bring it up to our coworkers, we don't want to bring it up to family gatherings because everybody thinks we have tinfoil hats on or whatever. these are the actual traditional knowledge, the traditional values that all generations up till about 3 generations, they knew. They totally knew this. They totally understood it. And now it's weird. So we get to be, so I can totally understand this support group that's necessary for the, now, unfortunately, the misfits, those of us who, think that there's something natural and real and honest about this that everybody else has forgotten, to come together. One of the things I thought you were saying about that was about privacy too. People don't want to necessarily talk about this stuff among their neighbors or coworkers or whatever because they want privacy, whereas that can be afforded in an online support group like Reddit.
Exactly. Reddit, you can be a little bit more, you can't really tell your friends that I've got X amount of gold bars in my, or silver bars wherever. I think that's another, but back to the younger generation and not knowing, it's something interesting happened to me actually just today. My father passed away a few years ago, and my stepmother, who I get along great with, his wife, she just contacted me and said she was going through a safety deposit box. And she had actually just bought her first monster box of silver a few weeks ago. So she's a first-time silver buyer, and she's in her 60s or late 60s. And all of a sudden, she just contacts me and says, I just went through your dad's old safety deposit box, and there's all sorts of silver coins in there from 1884, from, really collectible type of stuff. And she's like, did you know he had this stuff? And I'm like, no, I wasn't even into silver when my dad was alive. And she's like, there's like a bunch of it here in his safety deposit. And so just out of the blue, I found out my dad was a stacker and never told us. and this is just a safety deposit box that she has, and she's never really fully inventoried it. And she just, I was stunned. And so anyways, you're always surprised at what people are hiding. And then it just comes out that my dad was a stacker. I never knew it.
He was a silverback all along.
Yeah.
You didn't even know it, Jim.
He died years ago, and I never knew that, but now I do.
The way I see it too, adding on to that, is for the younger generation, I see it as like the great Roman circus still going on today, how it was thousands of years ago. There's so many distractions. Like all my friends still today, they know about Wall Street Silver, but they're more interested in the FIFA games. Do you know what I mean? Like with everything going on in the world with Corona, the whole businesses being shut down, people literally need to wake up and start organizing. All my friends are focused on FIFA right now. And you know what I mean? Like it's just like the great Roman circus back thousands of years ago in Rome when they wanted to distract the people, when everyone was rioting against the governments. They put on the shows. They put on what was that thing they're called when they were murdering each other?
Gladiators.
The gladiators. Yeah, the Colosseum. So I see it today. There's so many distractions that stuff that we talk about is more than important. It's like our channel should have millions and millions and millions of people watching, not millions of people watching sports right now because with COVID and everything, but it's the Roman circus.
To another extent, I think crypto has opened, I have one type of crypto, but, and just a tiny amount because my wife made me buy it. But crypto has opened up the younger generation that there is an alternative to the dollar. And so I think we should all be grateful for that it's teaching people some key concepts of not being in fiat. But I think the next step is if crypto has a problem is to have the knowledge there that, hey, there's something else beyond crypto, and that's probably gold and silver. And so I'm trying very hard on Reddit and on our YouTube channel not to attack, people who are into crypto, because I think eventually they're going to be gold and silver investors also.
Yeah, this has been for several years now. We've talked with numerous interviewees on our channel on Liberty and Finance, or formerly on Reluctant Preppers, who have talked about cryptos and precious metals being allies as dollar alternatives. And part of that is just the waking up that you're mentioning. It's that mind shift of, it's actually awakening from slumber, remembering things that we've generationally forgotten, that our money should be real and it should be based on something that is finite and isn't just at the whim. And that's one of the things that's actually waking people up. I think also, Ivan, you mentioned a couple times about these COVID lockdowns and COVID financial actions that have been taken by officialdom, printing trillions and trillions of expansion of the currency supply. Alistair MacLeod, whom we interview quite frequently, says he sees in the cards we are passing the milestones of the destruction of our currency. And Michael Pinto, who we've also who've interviewed several times, just published an article talking about the Fed has no way of backing up this. They're going to destroy the currency. So this is happening in front of our eyes. Gregor Manarino said the same thing, that the Fed is intentionally going to destroy the currency. People are getting it. People are starting to get that you simply cannot suspend the laws of nature and say we're just going to suddenly take the national debt, from 19 trillion to 26 trillion, and it's not going to have drastic effects. So people are waking up to that. As you look into the second half of this year, gentlemen, some of the people we've interviewed are expecting there to be a high likelihood of a resurgence in metals prices, partly due to what we're just talking about, is the debasement of the currency supply. What do you, among your silverbacks on Wall Street Silver, look forward to in the next, say, half a year to a year? Do you see more of just a gradual awakening and a gradual people continuing to accumulate, that kind of thing? Or do you see any cliff events from one thing or another that people should be expecting in the next half a year to a year?
I'm just keeping my eye on the USD. Who were we interviewing, Jim, the other day, where he was telling us he wants to see the second you see the USD at 88 and
the DXY, you mean?
DXY, sorry.
That's Leo Gantz.
Leo Gantz, yeah. He was saying the second he sees a certain number for the DXY and silver at a certain price, that's when you see the trigger. And at the end of the day, that's what I'm watching for too. Everyone can be as excited as they can, but until you see the US dollar actually really start taking a huge hit, then we're not going to, we just need that excitement to come back on silver precious metals pricing. And it will. I think people are everyday stacking, whether it's lower prices, higher prices, no matter what the price of silver is, people are going to be continually stacking.
Yeah, people are pretty, it's almost a habit for people who are in this community just to keep moving their resources out of fiat and more into hard assets. And I want to also stress, it's not just, you can see it's not just gold and silver, but it's also things like real estate. People are recognizing they need to get into hard fixed assets in order to protect themselves. I mean, I think real estate's getting a little bit out of control. What was that number? 23% year over year, recent released for real estate, whereas gold and silver are still reasonably priced, well below their August 5th highs of last year.
And not only that, there were several of our guests who talked about that silver is the only industrial commodity that's seen to have a role playing in the future of our economy that is still only slightly half of its 1980 former nominal high. And that's in the face of a currency that's been destroyed by arguably between 5x or more since then. That
when you said that 1980 high, I have a real, that was an artificial high, don't you think, with the Hunt brothers doing what they were doing to some extent. So I don't know if I'd necessarily count that 1980 high as something worth, comparing against. It's just maybe the 2011 high, which was also 49. That's worth comparing against. But just when people refer to less than the 1980 high, I just always think, well, the Hunt brothers were screwing with it back then. Does it really count?
Well, but in the current environment, I guess that's what you're talking about, is that, and that's what Michael Pinto has said, is that this is the first time in history that we've had equity markets and the bond markets and real estate all in simultaneous bubbles, so that they can no longer be effective hedges for each other, whereas you look at the anti-bubble and it leads you right back to silver.
So what if all three of these bubbles pop at once? That'll just be catastrophe.
It would be a very big disruption to many, many people's lives, many businesses, and that it's very difficult. We've talked to Jim Rawls. He's from survivalblog.com. We've talked to Doug Casey just last night. We posted his take. He said, he's calling for a greater depression, deeper and longer than the former Great Depression. And he said, in a Great Depression, he says, there are no winners. There's just, the question is, how much are you going to lose? And you try to protect yourself by holding on to something that's as real as you can get. So when you guys are looking forward to changes coming in the next year, what's ahead for Wall Street silver specifically?
All we can do is just keep growing the audience and being ready for when it happens. Yeah, some of the people on the Reddit community have been saying, hey, things have slowed down. We're not growing as fast. It's only growing 300 a day, whereas it used to grow 500 or 1,000 a day. People are upset. I show them the numbers in our growth charts that I
still growing.
It's growing 200 or 300 people per day, and they're upset because it's not growing 1,000 a day like it used to. I kid you not. And but from the standpoint of the Reddit community, it's just keep growing the audience, keep stacking, keep buying, keep applying pressure from the retail level. I know Sprott's going to keep applying pressure from the wholesale level because they've got enough firepower to take out another 10% of global annual mining supply. I mean, literally, we only mine 700, 800 million ounces per year. Sprott is buying 15 to 20% of the silver that we mine every year right now at the wholesale level. And so at the retail level, just keep doing it. I mean, they can only hold this down so long. And I'm not going to pretend it's going to happen by Thursday, 2 weeks from now. It's stupid to make that type of prediction, but something's going to break here, Donegan, and it's just a matter of time.
Just to add to Jim too, I read on Wall Street Bets because I'm there inviting people to our community too. I read for the past 2-3 months that everyone thinks that there's going to be a recession at the end of the year. So I don't know. It's just people commenting, but you see like the feeling of and this is not just one person. This is like hundreds and hundreds of people saying, there's something coming by the end of the year, like some type of recession because things can't keep up like this. So I always keep an eye out for that because people are smart. They know what's going on, even though the Fed and I don't know like what's going on over there.
Well, that's one of the things that we talk about with our guests on our channel as well and in fact, we interviewed Rob Kirby like over a year ago, and when just at the beginning of the COVID crisis, when basically the whole world was shutting down. We even did an interview with Alistair McLeod at that time. He said the whole of Europe is shutting down. And what Rob Kirby's metaphor was, he said, it's like in the old Roadrunner Coyote cartoons where the Roadrunner goes around the corner and the coyote runs off the edge of the cliff and he's sitting out there hovering in midair and he hasn't fallen yet, but that's going to happen. And he just hasn't put up his little parachute that says yikes yet, or his little umbrella that says yikes. So the people are, again, getting it in their gut is that you walk past all these businesses that are still shuttered, the storefronts are shuttered at the retail level, at corporate, commercial, corporate headquarters where there's nobody there in the parking lot because there's someone who are working from home. You've got businesses that can't get people to come back to work. You've got people now, the article just came out today, the tens of millions of people are quitting their job. They're just saying, I've had it. So if you've got companies that are shut down, you've got people that aren't working, you've got a supply chain in tatters, and the funding is at a strain so that the banks don't trust each other and you have continual liquidity injections by the Fed. It's like people are starting to get that the system is not working. And amidst that, you have got record high. Today, again, the stock market hit another record high. So people are getting it.
You ask yourself, what's the breaking point to this? And it seems like it's almost an intentional wealth transfer from the middle class to the elite right now. I mean, look what they've done, shutting down so many mom and pop middle class type businesses. But who stays open? Target, Walmart, Amazon. More and more power is accruing to the big box retailers, concentrating with the elites, and all the mid-level shops are just being decimated in certain areas of the country. And you just wonder, how can an economy survive like this where you're just gutting the middle class? and creating. And I don't know where it ends. I see it happening. We talk about it all the time on Reddit. Everyone seems to know it's happening, but no one seems to have a solution for it right now. I think this all starts ending probably when a few elections happen and some prime ministers start getting voted out of office in Europe. And then maybe the rest of them are like, we better stop this, because politicians have one key instinct, and that's to win their next election. And if they start seeing other politicians voted out of office, I'm thinking that'll be the only thing that'll get a change in direction, maybe from the policy level.
It's pretty tricky too, because I think Ivan made the point earlier about the Roman bread and circuses. Another tried and true tactic on the part of politicians throughout millennia is to just throw more bread and circuses to the people. So another response, rather than saying, let's actually change our policies to be sound and based on truth and all that. Another thing is to just keep ramping up the freebies that you're throwing out there, and when Alistair MacLeod says, when that reaches a breaking point, is when there's a fundamental breakdown of confidence in the currency itself. Then you start to get this runaway price inflation, and it becomes obvious to everyone. And in fact, when I mentioned Jim Rawls from survivalblog.net, he's changing over the pricing on his antique gun, because he's into big like private gun ownership, so you can get pre-1900 or pre-1899 carbine rifles and that sort of thing. But he's changing the primary pricing to not be in dollars but be in ounces of silver. And he says people will start to see that that gun costs this many ounces of silver today, and a week later and a month later, you can still get that same gun for those same ounces of silver. But notice that the conversion price that's an alternate that's listed over there in U.S. Federal Reserve notes keeps going up and going up. So the price is going up in one currency, but in the other currency of silver, it's staying stable. So which currency do you want? So as people start to think about it this way, because people will criticize, we've seen comments listed under our interviews. Oh, you can't eat silver, you can't eat gold, you should, and it's like, okay. But people don't say you shouldn't have any savings because you can't eat dollar bills wouldn't taste very good either. That's not the point. The point is what can they get you in, what can you obtain for that? What's the purchasing power of that in time of need? How liquid is it? How well understood is it? How desirable is it? So when people start to see, in this one example of somebody who's selling rifles, if more retailers start posting the equivalent price or the price of their thing in silver, and then you start to see that price is stable, and then the price keeps going up in dollars, which would you rather hold on to?
That's a very popular meme that I've seen on Twitter and Reddit many times, is showing the price chart for McDonald's back in the 60s, where they show the cost of a hamburger and the cost of fries or the cost of a milkshake as being like 5 cents, or the pre-1964 menu meme. It's hilarious, but it's so true.
Well, guys, I really appreciate you taking the time out to come on to Liberty and Finance again. We've had you on individually back shortly after the original Silver Squeeze 1.0. We've had you back on a panel to talk about what the meaning of that was, what trends there exist. Sounds like you're staying hard at it, and you're continuing to grow your membership, your communication channels that you're reaching out on. Just grateful for your presence here. And again, as part of that support network of making sure that people who are trying to do the right thing, that's the strangest thing about this, really, is that in defiance of the groupthink, in defiance of the predominant message that's being broadcast about all is well, just keep doing what you're doing, and that can result in this transfer of wealth from the middle class to the most elite financials. We have this forum that we can get together and we can share awareness, share truth, talk about real things, and make sure that we keep each other on track. And I just wanted to underscore one more thing, and that is that we have continued to get calls from clients over and over and over saying, I'm just getting my 10 ounces, I'm just getting my 20 ounces, whatever it is. And some people are doing this, they're nurses, they're truck drivers, they're bus drivers, they're firefighters, whatever. They're just saying, I'm just doing what I can every paycheck. And that's a way that they're taking concrete, specific action that's real and that does add up over time. It's really remarkable. It's quite inspiring to see people taking charge, because that's from the beginning of our roots of our channel almost 9 years ago, the Reluctant Preppers was people taking responsibility for the well-being of their families, looking forward to their children and grandchildren, having some world to live in that's not going to just have their work be destitute. So very, very encouraging for the work you're doing. Any final thoughts you guys would like to share with our audience?
I'd like to say, what you just mentioned with people of the middle class, say the nurses or the teachers, the wealthy and the elite, they protect themselves from inflation by owning, real estate or hard assets in large amounts, large size, that might be beyond the means of someone of more modest income. And they're fine with the inflation happening. They're ready for it, those people at the elite levels with hundreds of millions of dollars. But for people like us of more modest means, as you just pointed out, grabbing that 10 ounces of silver or grabbing whatever you can in hard assets is your own personal way to get out of the Federal Reserve notes, get into a hard, real asset, real money, to protect yourself. I mean, do what you you can do on your own scale, and you'll be better off 10 years from now than you would otherwise.
I just want to say thank you, Dunnigan, and thank you for everyone watching. Me and Jim really appreciate you guys.
Thanks, Ivan. So we've been speaking, guys, with Jim Lewis and Ivan Bayuki. They are the co-founders of Wall Street Silver. Guys, remind everybody where they can find you.
Wall Street Silver on Reddit is where our 120,000 members are. We're also on Twitter, Wall Street SILV. We have an Instagram, Wall Street SILV. There's a podcast. We have our YouTube channel of Wall Street Silver. So we're everywhere. When you come to our Reddit, there's all of our social media links, but we're absolutely everywhere on all social media platforms.
Just a reminder, guys, so that you don't miss any of our interviews with Wall Street Silver or any of the other guests we've been talking about, make sure you go to libertyandfinance.com. That's our homepage, libertyandfinance.com. Put in your name and email address, click submit. You'll get on our email list for our daily newsletter that comes out. It's completely free. It lists all of our interviews with all of our guests. We'll put all the links that Ivan just shared of how to get on with Wall Street Silver in that newsletter, and that's how you're going to stay plugged in. So thank you guys, Jim and Ivan from Wall Street Silver, for joining us again here on Liberty and Finance.
Thank you, Dunnigan. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
This is Dunnigan Kaiser, founder of Liberty and Finance. I'm now a licensed gold and silver broker for Miles Franklin. Call me directly for the physical gold and silver that you need at the best price with personalized private service from one of the oldest and best companies in the business. 31 years strong, A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau, 0 complaints, licensed and bonded. For physical delivery, vault storage, or precious metals IRAs, excellent prices, privacy, and confidentiality. Pay by check, money order, ACH, bank wire, or Bitcoin. Satisfaction guaranteed. For fastest service, just call 1-888-81-LIBERTY. That's 888-81-LIBERTY. And either I or one of my sons and fellow brokers will call you back as soon as we can and understand your needs.